Hey there and welcome back to the garden. Today we're going to do a handful of repottings that I've been meaning to do for a while. First up, we got a simple jade cutting. I know there's many ways out there to tackle the propagation of a succulent. Many people will say that you'll need to cut it and let it callus over, that you'll need to stick it in rooting hormone, that you need to let it sit in the sun for 5 days. So many different ways out there to do this. For me, I've found in my climate that you can just cut it fresh and stick it right in the dirt as long as the dirt doesn't stay super wet. This cutting came from the mature jade plant that I pruned up in my other video. I saved a handful of the cuttings, especially the ones that looked like small trees like this one. We had a couple friends over a few weeks ago and they saw a larger pot of jade in our yard and they absolutely loved it, so I'm going to give this to them next time I see them as a nice little surprise. Quick, easy, fast, done. I love it. Let's move on to the next one. Here we have one of our Aeonium haworthes. You might recognize it as the only plant that we broke during our moving day time-lapse video. I've had this Aeonium for about 5 years now, and I originally got it from an estate sale, and what really drew me to it was the bark that had formed on the stems, and it really gave it a one-of-the-kind look, and I just had to add it to my collection. To fill in the dead space left in the rest of the pot, I decided to add some Focaria tigrina, also known as tiger's jaw. Tiger's jaw was probably one of the first succulents ever picked up as a kid. They always kind of reminded me of a Venus flytrap, just with thicker petals. Obviously that's not how they act, but that's what they looked like to me. And the beautiful flower they put out is always just a bonus. Most recently though, I haven't had success in keeping them green and pest free. For some reason they keep getting infested with scale. I'm hoping that since they won't be surrounded by a bunch of other low-lying succulents in this pot, that they'll do a lot better than they have in the recent years. And after tapping in the aloe plant I'm breaking apart here, I'm pretty sure is an Aloe Delta Dawn. I found it when I was at Home Depot the other day, and it was in the clearance section, so it was only $1, so I obviously picked it up. I'm breaking apart the bushel into each individual plant, so that way it's easier to plant around the taller aloe tree that you see in the background. I've been growing this aloe tree for probably 3 years now. I was inspired by an old roommate of mine who had one growing in our kitchen for like 5 years. The whole idea is to cut off any of the pups that start growing or any of the branches that start coming out to let the plant only put the energy to the main stalk and try to get it as tall and as straight as possible. With all the plants trimmed and prepped and out of the original pot, it's time to clean up and organize so we can start getting everything into the new home. The soil I'm using in all the pots today is my homemade cactus mix, which consists of 50% potting mix, 50% raised bed mix, with a little bit of pumice stone added for taste. With the centerpiece of the pot placed in there, it's time to start adding in the smaller low-lying Aloe Delta Dawns. I'm pretty sure the only reason why they were in the clearance section is because they hadn't been watered for a while and they were really dry and just did not look that good. So I'm hoping that now that they're in their new home and they'll be getting consistent water, that they'll plump up and really show their really vibrant reds and green colors. When I'm planting a bunch of succulents into a really tight arrangement like this, I've found that it's easiest just to pour the soil into all the crevices as much as you can, and then I'll use a knife or a poker or a stick or even my fingers just to get the dirt down and compacted in between each plant. And then as time goes on and I water it, it gets all the soil out from the leaves, and then it also just compacts the soil more. I'll finally use a leaf blower to blow all the excess dirt out to make it look as best as it can look. And here's the finished product. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Thank you so much for helping me repot all these plants today. As we all know, the yard work never ends, so please subscribe to follow me along this gardening journey.